Welcome to Straight Shot Politics. I'm Lisa Chafee.
I'm Josh Cease.
And I'm Michael Nash.
Okay, guys, so I'm super excited because I've been trying for a year now to get Mr. Jack Windsor on the show, and he's finally joining us. Sir, how are you?
I am super fantastic, locked and loaded, and honored to be here with you three. Thank you for choosing me. I really do appreciate
He
it.
still says it. Oh, God, I've been booking Jack going all the way back to when I worked for the Evil Empire. Jack, good to talk to you again, man. It's been a while. You've reached out to me and missed. I've reached out to you, and it's glad. All I really am happy about is the fact that we're doing this tonight. Jack and I have worked together in stretches for years now.
Mm-hmm.
But Jack, for anybody who doesn't know what's going on currently with you right now, please lay it out, everything you're doing, because you're a very busy man in the world of Ohio conservative politics, man. You're everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for that. And Josh, I appreciate you going back years. I miss hearing you on the radio. You are a diamond. You are a treasure. And I'm glad that you're doing this podcast. So now I have a couple of irons in the fire. Number one, we still have the Ohio Press Network. You can get our news and information at the ohiopressnetwork.com. We give you the stories that many other outlets do, but from an angle that is not progressive. And we also tell the stories that other outlets refuse to, so you get both. So I also have a radio show, a daily afternoon drive time radio show on Salem Radio Network's 98.9 FM, The Answer in Columbus, Ohio, called the Windsor Report. And, of course, we talk about politics, policy around the globe, America, and here in the Buckeye State.
It's a very good show. If I don't get to listen to it live, I like to go back, and you have like basically a podcast version of your interviews on there. It's really good. I really enjoy that.
I've listened to many of his podcasts since he's been on broadcasting, and whenever I'm in the car, I make sure, and I know Jack's on, I listen. So we've been tracking you, buddy. You can't say or do anything we're not aware of, but then again, you don't mind it because everything you do is so above board, Jack. It's all public knowledge, and people can see what you do and your work, and appreciate you on the fact that you're telling the stories that nobody else is telling. Let's do this, if you don't mind, Lisa. If I may ask Jack, give us a great example of something right now that's going on in the state of Ohio that maybe Ohio Press Network or you individually are investigating, are looking into, are asking questions that nobody listening to the Straight Shot Politics podcast has any idea is even going on because the mainstream media refuses to touch it. Is there anything, Jack, you want to talk about?
There's a whole host of things, Josh. Thank you for asking that. And you might scratch your head and go, well, wait a minute. Why are you giving us an example from a year ago? And I'm giving you the example to show you how lame the lamestream media really is. Over a year ago, I broke the story involving State Representative Mike Davila and his look into Ohio's Medicaid system. Back then, he found that there were about $6 billion a year flowing through Ohio's Medicaid system. Of course, Ohio combines federal dollars, state dollars, and they pay out Medicaid claims to people who register, and there's a whole host of ways to do that, but I digress. Davila found that there was about $6 billion a year flowing through the system that did not have proper oversight. Specifically, there were people who had assets well above what is permissible. And when he went to the Ohio Department of Medicaid and said, look, your third-party vendor flagged these accounts, and there were a boatload, hundreds of thousands of accounts. Can you show us where either you took them off the rolls or audited them and verified that they had assets below the threshold? And the answer he got was, well, we rely on our county partners to do that. So they could not answer his questions. So we had been tracking that story for over a year. Fast forward to about a month and a half ago, Daily Wire was also looking into Ohio's Medicaid system, and they were able to grab some information that DOJ released as one of their final acts on stage, on the national stage, and they found that there are home health agencies in Ohio that may have billed Medicaid for about $1 billion plus in 1 year alone, and many of those claims are either wasteful, fraudulent, or abusive based on the rules. So we have been tracking both of those things, but interestingly, in the Ohio mainstream press, what you get right now with respect to Ohio's Medicaid waste, fraud, and abuse, mainstream reporters go, oh, well, look, Republicans created the problem, and now they're trying to blame each other, which is about as far from the truth as the East is from the West. There's an entire system of bureaucracy and public union employees that have protected each other, and it has nothing to do with whether a Democrat or a Republican is in charge. It has everything to do with the fact that this is a big government nanny state program that is completely out of control, that has allowed billions of dollars of waste in Ohio's system. And by the way, we're a red state. So think about how many other states around the country, particularly the blue states, that also have billions of dollars of waste. And you go, well, wait, I thought you just said it wasn't a red or a blue thing. You're right. But the difference between the red team and the blue team is that the red team generally, when they find stuff like this, they say, hey, we're going to do something about it. And the blue team, like in New York and California, they actually try to criminalize the people who have uncovered the billions of dollars of waste, fraud, and abuse. That's just one sample of what we're doing at the Ohio Press Network and on the Windsor Report that mainstream outlets just can't seem to get right.
Well, last week, you and I both were at Vivek Ramaswamy's press conference. Matt Huffman spoke, Keith Faber, who's our auditor, spoke. And what struck me, one, the questions that the press corps asked were all about who's to blame. Like you said, they didn't ask really tough questions. How are you going to fix the problem? But I remember Huffman and Speaker Huffman and Keith Faber both mentioned about legislation that was put into place to help, a couple years ago to help fix this problem. And the then director of Medicaid just blatantly ignored it.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? So federally, there is a requirement that for you to collect home health aid Medicaid dollars, you have to have what's called electronic visit verification turned on. And Ohio didn't make that mandatory. They made it voluntary. And the auditor blew the whistle on it. I believe Attorney General Dave Yost, who was on his way out, blew the whistle on it. And the state said, oh, okay, we'll require EVV. And at the same time, and this is the really strange part, they did that. They required EVV last year about this time after my report involving Representative DeVilla's findings of $6 billion flowing through the system without proper oversight. They required EVV to be turned on, and they said, but the GPS tracker, which is what gives EVV teeth, is voluntary, and the default is off. And if you want it on, you have to get a form signed by the person that's being
getting
cared
an ankle
for,
monitor
and you
because you committed a crime. You were convicted in court, but it's like, you can voluntarily turn your ankle monitor for house arrest on and off.
Well, and let's be
Thank
realistic. All they have to do is, so they put it on their phone. If they were to turn the GPS on, leave the phone there with the person, and I'm using air quotes, that they're supposedly taking care of. And then they have another phone that's their real phone. So there's always going to be ways around it. But what's astonishing is, Jack, and tell me if I'm wrong, that the majority of the fraud in Franklin County is in 2 zip codes.
Yes, it is. It's in 2 zip codes and 7 buildings, and I'm talking hundreds of millions of dollars. And when the Daily Wire reporter came to town, what he found was really damning. For example, he went to one location that has billed Medicaid millions of dollars, and he even found a letter from Ohio's Bureau of Criminal Investigation from November of last year that was still there in front of the door, had not been opened. There were piles of mail under the door. And then there was this makeshift, I think maybe computer printed sign on one single piece of white paper that said, "Oh, we're out for a break. We'll be back momentarily." And you look at the door and you go, that was like a year break. So yes. And in the other part that really has people's ire aroused is the fact that this is happening in the Somali community.
Just like Minnesota, just like Minneapolis.
Exactly.
Where this
And-
Columbus
exactly.
is the second biggest Somali population in the country behind Minneapolis.
But it's also, I heard from a confidential source, the Bhutanese community as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not
Correct.
But Jack, why the Somali connection for the fraud that was exposed under Governor Walz, that ass clown, Tampon Tim up in Minnesota governor, and then now here in Columbus with Fat Andy Ginther, and I say fat not as in he's a big obese man, as in kind of like your mob name, like Fat Tony, like that's Fat Andy over there, you know what I mean? And he's running.
Yep.
He's running the city because he's a mafia boss is essentially what Ginther is. And he's in cahoots with all the unions and they're making a lot of money. But what is it about the Somali connection when you have this fraud going on? Why this community? Who devised this strategy? And more importantly, where in the hell is the money going, Jack? The real money going?
I'm going to quote a guy that we all dearly miss, Charlie Kirk. Immigration without assimilation is invasion.
Amen.
And that's what you got. You had the Somali folks who came. Listen, they had a war-torn nation, and I get it, right? Many of them came here to escape civil war, but it's on us. It's on us in Minnesota. It's on us in Ohio. It's on us in Michigan, in other parts of the country, because we did not have elected officials who said, if you're going to come here, you're going to do the things that are required of you to assimilate. And they brought corruption with them. They brought third world habits with them. And that, to me, is the long and short of it. And there are certain parties in our political system that I think prey on that. And there are certain parties in our political system. Well, I'm not going to say that. In Ohio, I think you have Governor DeWine, who trusts the people around him. He pretends to be a benevolent old grandpa. And when he sees money flowing through the system, he thinks, oh, there's more money going to help people. Well, the reality is, if you're not auditing that money, many of those dollars can be going to people that are wasting the money, fraudulently acquiring it, or abusing the system. And the sad part about that, and we all know this, and I'm going to say it anyway, is that when people who don't deserve the money take the money, the people who need it get crowded out. And that's really what pisses people off about this entire story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jack, as a veteran of Somalia, I can say that what I saw in Somalia is now being brought here, to your point. So that it disgusts me to see what they did to their own country, and they are definitely bringing it here, for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So,
And listen, listen, if I'm a 4-year-old and I can bully my parents to give me 2 cookies instead of 1, I keep doing it.
Yeah.
And if I grow up as a petulant teenager, it's kind of on my parents, right?
Yeah. No, it's a relevant. That's a relevant analogy. Lisa, did you have something you were gonna?
not about that topic. I was gonna say let's pivot
No, I
a
wanted
little
to
bit.
move on. I was
Yeah.
thinking about we're talking about Vivek, and you guys were both there. Jack, we've talked to a lot of people. Our old friend Bob Clegg, who I'm sure we'll have on here very, very soon again.
He has his own punch card here now. So.
He gets a discount. He gets the frequent flyer discount.
Right.
But I wanted to your take on the race right now, and because Jack, I think it's really interesting. Amy Acton is quietly accumulating one hell of a war chest. Okay, she's not active on the airwaves yet. I have seen no ads. I've heard no ads. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm saying in this market, I haven't. I've been flooded since January with Vivek ads. So I'm a little nervous because it seems like they're waiting on something that they know Your state, your take on the state of the governor's race in Ohio, because this is interesting. Vivek's coming out here throwing haymakers, and she's just sitting in a corner. What's going on here, Jack?
That's a great question. I'll start at 30,000 feet, and then we can drill down wherever you want, because I have more information and interest on this race than anything else in the world right now because of the consequence of who is elected. And I'm going to be very clear. On one side, you have a full-on Marxist. On the other side, you have a Republican and a man who has had success in the business world. And we can talk about the merits of his success, and I will defend those merits. But it's very clear who Amy Acton is. But right now, I think Vivek Ramaswamy is probably slightly up in that race. It's going to come down to this, and this is my 30,000-foot assessment. If Republicans sit on their hands, Amy Acton will be our next governor.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple. And whether it's her or Sherrod Brown or some other factor, what they're going to do is they're going to try to juice turnout. That's the only way that they can win. And so what concerns me is that whether it's data centers, whether it's George Soros, whether it's he made his money illegally, whether it is the support that the GOP primary opponent Casey Putsch mounted, all of those factors are kind of going against Vivek Ramaswamy on the side of the aisle that he needs support from.
Mm-hmm.
And we now know that China is funding all of the anti-data center stuff. And so that concerns me because there are really well-intended people with good hearts on the right who are buying into the Chinese propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
There are people on Casey Putsch's team who say, well, I'm not going to vote. I'm going to sit at home. And they're very vocal on social. And so if that happens, he is in real danger. Now, Vivek Ramaswamy has about as much money as God. I don't worry about him being outspent. What I worry about is I have personal experience that Amy Acton is walking arm in arm with Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign attorney, Mark Elias,
Mm-hmm.
and the Elias Law Group. They've sent me 2 cease and desist letters because of my coverage of Amy Acton. I don't worry about that, but what that tells me, what that signals me, is that she is 100% in the Democrat dark money, DC insider swamp network. And so she's going to get money. They're going to pull out every trick in the book, and it's going to be a tight race. And if Republicans can come to their senses and realize here's a man who has signed the front of a paycheck, who has succeeded at everything he's done in life and has Trump's endorsement, I think he wins. But if people buy into data centers bad, Casey Putsch good, Vivek Ramaswamy made his money the wrong way, man, it's going to be way closer than I think many people want it to be.
Well, speaking of the data centers, I'm not a fan of them, knowing how much electricity they use, the amount of water that they need. So why are they not bad?
That is a great question. Inherently, as a free market person, what people demand, I want them to be able to get. I mean, all things being equal, right? Like there are certain things we don't want. If you're going to murder people and charge admission, that's probably wrong.
Yeah.
If you're going to, expose children to things that are not lawful or ethical, that's wrong. But people are demanding the things that require data centers to be built. So you look at it from a free market perspective and you go, okay, there's a demand. Now, how do we supply that demand in a way that is responsible? And that, I think, is where Ohio is different than, say, Virginia or Texas. If you go back to last year, 2025, the General Assembly passed a series of bills that allows data centers, for example, to build their own power sources. That's huge. And I do believe that the tax treatment that's been favorable to data centers is going to go away. And so I think what remains is what happens to the water.
Didn't Governor DeWine announce that moving forward that those tax breaks are paused? I think that was yesterday I read.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's absolutely right.
Which is great because they really don't bring in jobs. I mean, a data center, as large of a building as it is, as large of a footprint that it has, only a handful of jobs exists in those locations.
Yeah. Once the construction team is done, then it's what it is. It's like AI. It's automated. So
Yeah.
legitimate concern, right? And kudos to DeWine. I mean, the sun shines on a dog's ass once in a while, right? So he got something right. But to me, I think the ecological impact is something that I really want to understand and see us deal with. I don't want brown water. I don't want wastewater runoff that's bad for us. And then you also have, I guess, the other issue, which is, are they loud? Do they create this, vibration in the air that drives people crazy? All of those things. But here's the bottom line. We have to figure it out.
Yeah.
AI is not going anywhere. It's kind of like back at the turn of the 20th century, 1900s, when people were like, well, I can just build a better buggy and a better whip. And it's like, we have automobiles. Well, we have AI and we have automation. So now we have to figure out how to do it responsibly. And I do believe that, at least from a power perspective, Ohio's in the right spot. And I think, pausing the tax breaks is a smart move. I would like to see the ecological side of it get addressed.
Thank you. Lisa's got a point, but I just want to say thank you for talking about the ecological aspect.
Yeah.
One thing people think I'm just this hard ass, right-wing, flame-throwing conservative dick. I'm not. I have a heart. One of my passions is animals, nature, conservation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the guy that, I think I'd love to punch everyone who throws a cigarette butt out the window right in the nose kind of guy. So thank you for mentioning that, because I guess you can call me not an environmentalist, but someone who's very ecologically conscious.
Well, we have to be responsible and take care of the ground, because it's all we got. We can't make more. And we've seen what's happened with the solar panels and the windmills. And once they build those, and they've been buying up prime farmland. There's a battle in Madison County for this.
I know about,
So once those go in, you'll never be able to farm there again, because of and if the windmill breaks,
we can just import our fruits and vegetables from China.
Yeah, so that's a true concern. But the energy cost to us, our electric bills. I've got a friend who has a house that's probably about 2,000 square feet, give or a bit. It's and it's just her and her husband, and their electric bill is running $700 a month right now.
That is insane.
In the wintertime,
wow,
she heats her home with her wood stove instead of using the
smart.
But some of that, I think, is coming from the extra costs on the data centers. And we shouldn't, taxpayers shouldn't be funding the football stadiums and stuff. I don't think this should fall to us either.
I'm with Jack, though. I'm with Jack, because Jack's right about one thing. This is going to take. There's still more learning and more research.
There is, and we need to pause it.
And we just need to take a breath. Like, sometimes, don't just run headfirst into the cave, because you never know if there's a bear hibernating in there, and then you're done. So just.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. I'm not anti-data center. I'm
right.
like, can we slow down and truly get
be
a responsible evaluation for what the full impacts are? And Jack, I think you would agree with that kind of philosophy.
Absolutely. You're spot on.
All right. So one of the other hot topics we've been dealing with is FOP What, did you have another question?
No.
Okay. FOP President Brian Steele.
Yep.
For those of you who missed our episode where we interviewed him, so Officer Jason Mead was convicted of reckless homicide in the shooting death of Casey Goodson. And in the aftermath of that, Brian, who is very passionate, called their family's attorney a poverty pimp, which, for those of you who don't know or listening, Brian happens to be white. Jason Mead happens to be white. Casey Gooden and his family are black. Their attorney, I believe, is black. And so there's been a battle on social media petitions signed to get Brian removed as president of the FOP, which it doesn't work that way. Only union members can vote him out, and they chose not to do that recently. So do you have any updates on Jason Mead's situation? Is he filed for an appeal yet? Because I think he has grounds for one. They never should have had the trial here in Franklin County. What can you tell us?
Oh, well, I can only give you the latest that I have, and it's probably 2 weeks old. I'm kind of like a dog that hunts. Once I get a new scent, I'm on that trail. But I had a great conversation with Brian Steele, FOP Lodge 9 Lieutenant President, or FOP Lodge 9 President Lieutenant Brian Steele, about several things. His comment calling Sean Walton a poverty pimp, what that means, I'll address that in a minute. But what's concerning to me is twofold. Number one, you had a trial in a community. By the way, this was the second trial. Hung jury the first time. You had a trial in a community where there was a multi-million-dollar payout to the deceased person's family. There was a program named in his honor. And so as somebody who wants fair-minded people looking at something, you go, there's really no way you're going to get a fair trial here. We need a change in venue. The fact that there was not a venue change is just unconscionable to me. That's number one.
Orchestrated is the word I would call it. It was orchestrated that he was not to leave Franklin County. That came from Jack. That came, you and I both know, brother. That came from levels way higher than our pay grade.
100%. You are absolutely right. And the other thing that is absolutely embarrassing, and I would take Sean Walton to task on this, and Sean Walton has been, trying to defame me on social. Yeah, welcome to the club, Sean. So has the New York Times. So has every other major newspaper in Ohio. But to call what Jason Mead did reckless homicide is just asinine. He intended to shoot Casey Goodson, and he intended to shoot him because he had a gun, and the gun was under him. So to call it reckless is, again, unbelievable. There's nothing reckless about it. He intended to shoot him. And I get it. There are standards, right? But that alone is a little bit concerning. And then the other thing that has come out that's really, really concerning to me is that Sean Walton posted on social media recently the words of a jurist. And the jurist talked about feeling like she was carrying decades of, guilt, blame, shame, representing the Black community. And I'm thinking, she was biased. How in the world did this person make a decision on the fate of Jason Mead when it's very clear that this person was on the jury and this person believed in, the age-old class warfare, Black versus white, police versus pedestrian. So there's a lot about this case that really troubles me. And I will say this, and then I'll shut up. Steele's right, because Sean Walton is a poverty pimp. He's 100% a poverty pimp.
Yes.
Look the word up. Steele didn't make it up. It's a real word. And Sean Walton preys on people that are in poverty, and he makes a shit ton of money from them. That is the textbook definition. And if you don't like it, Sean Walton, then don't be it.
Well, it's the same thing as calling someone an ambulance chaser. But here's what people need to know. So the family sued the city of Columbus. They settled $7 million. The family got just a little over $2 million, while Sean Walton, the attorney, got a little over $4 million.
Say that one more time, Lisa, please.
So the family, Casey Gooden's family, settled for $7 million. They got to keep just a little over $2 million, while Sean Walton got a little over $4 million out of that settlement.
I think you just defined poverty pimp.
That is exactly what.
Poverty pimp.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that puts a bow on it. Brian Steele's not going anywhere. Nobody defends the men and women of law enforcement harder than him. So he's a personal friend of the show and to all of us. So he can keep up the good work. Jack, the madness with the Whitehall mayor. And everything that's been going on over in Whitehall. And you got the cops are involved, and then the mayors. It is a mess. Recalls, legal fights. What's your awareness of the situation going on in Whitehall, since it is in your listening audience over there on 98.9?
You caught me, Josh.
Did I get you on the gotcha? I got you. I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to get you.
You got me, man. All I know is what Lisa shared a little bit earlier.
Okay.
I think the mayors, Michael Blevins, at-large council members, Amy Harkar and Lori Elmar, and there's a special recall election set by City Council after petitioners gathered enough additional signatures to satisfy an Ohio Supreme Court ruling. I know that, but I don't know the innards of the case, what happened or why, and I don't. But I want to learn. So what happened?
Lisa, go ahead and Jack would kind of fill Jack in on everything that's been going on in Whitehall.
It started a few years back, and it goes back to Brian Steele. When the current chief of police was hired, almost immediately, and I'm relaying what Brian Steele shared with me, that within months, officers were complaining about a toxic work environment. So 2 of the officers, whose names escape me, did their own survey. And the results were not favorable to the chief of police. They took the results to the mayor, the current mayor, Bivens, who then handed the results to the chief and said, "You handle this. This is internal." And then those 2 officers got fired. Now, one of them has since won his case, and he was reinstated and then was allowed to retire and got his pension and everything like that. So along the way, the chief of police, who is anti-union, has restricted the FOP's access to emails to communicate with the officers. And that's all I know about that part. Now, I don't know what is going on with the recall on the city council, other than there's a lot of trash talk going on. Holly Stein is leading the fight on this with Whitehall for All, and they have a website you can go look at, whitehallforall.com. Just a side note, they're labeling her as being racist and discriminatory, but she's a lesbian. Not that really matters.
She white
but
and white,
I think so. Yeah. I have not seen a picture of her. The mayor is black. 2 of the city council members are black. 1 is white, and they labeled her a black friendly, I think is the term.
What does that even mean?
I don't know.
Jesus
Black ally.
Criminy.
It's just a hot mess, but they are having a recall election. So, corruption runs deep.
Not in Franklin County, Ohio. No.
But I want to get back to, Jack, you talked about how Republicans, we've got to get out and vote. And, I am an officer in Franklin County Republican Party. And people are always saying, why don't you get Republicans to win in Franklin County? We have between Columbus, Cincinnati, and Cuyahoga, Cleveland, we have the most registered Republicans. Wow. We are working on getting them out to vote. That's where we have to focus our attentions the next few months between now and November.
And make people realize that just because you live in Cuyahoga County and you're a conservative, your vote counts statewide. It's not like saying, Cuyahoga County is so liberal, there's no point in showing up. Because your vote will count statewide.
Exactly. And we're
seeing...
What
a beautiful point.
Yeah. Yep. And we're seeing now what Zoran Mondami is doing in New York, and what crazy leftist socialist.
Sorry, I got to get my rug out and pray. Which way is east here, Mike? I can't.
Out in Seattle.
Rises in the east, sets in the west, Josh.
If we don't get Vivek elected, that crap is coming to Ohio.
100%.
God.
100%. And listen, if Vivek loses, Sherrod also wins.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
I got to talk to one of my favorite people, U.S. Senator John Kennedy today.
I
And I
love
love
him.
the way that he put it.
You had the
I
oranges
asked
to
him a
talk to
question.
him, Jack. You had you grew the oranges to go ahead and talk to him.
I grew the oranges, and he did not eat me up like a snack. he he was great. I asked. I said, "Listen, you served with Sherrod Brown on the United States Senate Banking Committee. You've served with Senator Husted on the Appropriations Committee. Like, what's the difference?" And he's really a walking soundbite, but he's also not a bullshitter. And he talked about how Husted is thoughtful, and he said a couple things that really stuck out to me today, and I'll bring this around the barn shortly. But he said, we have these Senate lunches 3 times a week among Republicans, and there are a lot of mockingbirds. They like to talk and chirp and whatever. And he said, John Husted does not talk much, but when he talks, people listen. And when he talks, you can tell he's thought about what he's talking about. And I love it. He's like, he reads books and stuff.
He reads books and stuff.
And so, he was kind of giving him a nod, like he's a pretty smart guy. And he doesn't say a lot, but when he says something, people take it seriously.
It's like EFM.
And, he talked about his record. And I love what he said about Sherrod Brown. He said, if you have any questions about Sherrod Brown, look at his voting record. And he said, if, Sherrod Brown is to the left of Lenin. He's there with AOC. He's there with New York City's Mamdani. He's there with Sanders. And if the Democrat Party says stand on one leg and bark like a dog, Sherrod's going to do it. And, that's what it comes down to. And, as you think about the election cycle, as you think about people getting out to vote, what people need to recognize is that Sherrod Brown has a record, and it's abysmal. Amy Acton has a record, and it's abysmal. Yeah. And if you can't be a Republican and get off your ass and go support the people that will make sure that they are not making decisions and that we're not pointing our carpets to the east and praying to some God that is not ours, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, listen, Jack, and I'll tell you the one thing nobody's talking about this fall, but was scared the hell out of me: Secretary of State Allison Russo.
Yeah.
And what the proposals and the ideas that I know is cooked up in her demented little brain. I am terrified of her becoming Secretary of State and in charge of our elections, Jack. I'm terrified of it.
As you should be, because listen, Allison Russo is like most people that I know on the left. She doesn't believe half the bullshit that she shoves in the field, but she believes that she's smart enough that once we go total socialist, she's going to be in control and she's going to get her share. This is a woman that when I covered Ohio politics in the State House was sitting in front of cameras with a mask on during COVID, talking about how dangerous the virus was. And then she went out in the hallway and was yucking it up less than a foot away from like hundreds of people. She is a fully indoctrinated, dog and pony show person, but she is going to do what Sherrod's going to do, which is if they tell her to stand on one leg and bark, she's going to do it. And when it comes to elections, look, the Democrats don't want IDs because they want illegals, right?
Yes.
And they don't want legitimate businesses, because if they have legitimate businesses, then they can't have money flowing through to illegitimate businesses that finds its way back to Democrats. I mean, it's really that.
I just, Mike or Jack, sorry, we've got to. You'll do it on your show. We'll do it on this podcast. We can, I promote, whatever we can do to kind of, help and massage each other. And that sounds weird, I know, but what I'm saying is, because I say that because
Deshaun Watson just showed up in my mind.
Deshaun Watson, yes, I need a massage. But in all seriousness, I mean, we've got to come together, whether it's
Yeah.
If you have a podcast, you have a radio show, you have you're an activist, you're in the community, whatever that is, Jack. We've got to hammer home the message that there is so much more riding on this election than I think anybody. If you are conservative in the state of Ohio, we've known for 10 years. We're like, we're going to win all the state offices, no problem. It's the first time in over a decade, Jack, that is in jeopardy, and they're pissed. The left is pissed. The Democrat machine is pissed. They've got all their big-time operatives focused on Ohio, focused on that Senate race, making sure Amy Acton becomes governor, Allison Russo, Secretary of State, Jack. This election is so important that if you value Ohio, if you want to recognize Ohio as it is, you got to get off your butt and go vote conservative, go vote Republican.
And like Senator Bernie Moreno loves to say, and I love Bernie, you vote 11 times. You vote, take 10 friends with you.
I love that. And I'll go a step further. Even if you can't find it in your belly to love Ohio and to love America, look at your kids.
Exactly.
Do you want them living in Cuba, Venezuela, or China? And get off your ass.
And I know it's a few months away yet, but here's an example of why we need to encourage early voting. So I have a friend who was a write-in for Central Committee. We just had Central Committee elections, this primary, and he didn't get any votes. He didn't even vote for himself. I texted him and said, what happened? You didn't even get one vote. Well, I was going to vote on Election Day, but I had an emergency, and I couldn't get there.
Oh, my gosh.
So that's just a perfect example. Life happens. Shit happens. So I know typically conservatives don't like the idea of early voting, but until it goes away, we need to take advantage of it because Democrats kill us in early voting.
That's a great point.
Can I say one thing about that?
Yes, please.
I love Woody Hayes, but the days of 3 yards in a cloud of dust, it's over. That would be like, I want to have double tight ends, double wing backs, and I want to run up the middle. The game has changed. You have 5 wide receivers, quarterback who can throw, and kids who are like, faster than light on the edges, and you throw the pass. That's the same thing. Like, the rules are the rules. And even if you don't like the rules, you need to use the rules to your favor. To your point.
Exactly.
Vote early.
Yep.
Take people with you. Make sure your vote counts. Make sure every person that you know that wants to vote and can vote goes to vote. It's really that simple. It doesn't have to be anything other than that.
Exactly. So, Jack, on election night, I'm really excited. So the ORP always has a big celebration on election night down at a hotel downtown, and we are going to be live streaming Straight Shot Politics from there.
Dang.
And we want you to come pop
We
in.
do. We want to talk. We want you to be there.
Yep. You
Most
got to be there with
definitely.
us.
Yep.
I would be honored if I could. Yes, count me in. Give me a pass. Tell me when. I'm there.
We will. So if people...
It's actually a special handshake, and you got to wear a special hat.
And you have to hold your tongue just right.
Right.
Do a little dance.
Yep.
This sounds like Sherrod Brown standing on one leg, barking like a dog.
So you're on the radio, 98.9, Monday through Friday from when to when?
Monday through Thursday, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Friday, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
And then people can go to the website. You can just type in 98.9 The Answer. They can pull you up. They can listen to previous episodes. They can also find you at the Ohio Press Network. It's a wonderful, wonderful source for news. And also on Facebook.
Very active on Facebook.
Yes.
And appreciate everything you do. And Jack, let's just keep fighting the good fight, brother. Mom, I got 3 beautiful babies. They turned 12, 8, and 4 this year, Jack. Their future's at stake, and I'm going to do whatever it takes, whatever microphone or thing God gives me. I'm going to fight the fight that I can fight, and I know you will too, brother.
Josh, amen. And Lisa, amen. And Mike, it was good to see you today. You 3 keep doing your thing, and I know that we're going to make seismic change here in Ohio.
I do believe so.
Good seeing you again today, too.
So this has been Straight Shot Politics. Please go find us on YouTube and on Facebook. subscribe, like
Rumble.
us, Rumble, and share it with your friends.
Yeah. I mean, just get the word out. That's
Get the
what
word
it's
out.
about.
Yeah.
Yep. This has been Straight Shot Politics.